What's going on, guys? My name is Josh and I'm back today with another movie review. I finally saw Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I've been waiting for this movie to come out for months. I'm happy I finally saw it. I will say I did have a fun time with it. I did enjoy it. Definitely have a few issues with it. I do think it could be better. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Before I get started, if you could do me a huge favor and please like this video and subscribe to the channel. You better watch out because it's time to get this video started. Let's go. So Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is directed by Sam Raimi, and the film stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, and Soji Gomez as America Chavez. And the plot of this movie is to restore a world where everything is changing. Strange seeks help from his ally Wong, the Sorcerer Supreme, and the Avengers' most powerful Scarlet Witch Wanda. But a terrible threat looms over humanity and the entire universe that no longer can be done by their powers alone. So yes, first guys, I just want to say this video is going to have a ton of spoilers, so if you have not seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I probably would say stop now because yes, I'm going to be talking spoilers. So I actually got to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness twice yesterday. I went once at 3 o'clock and then actually saw it later with one of my other friends at 8. And I will say, the first time I watched it, I did enjoy this movie, but I definitely was disappointed because I just went into this movie with so much high expectations of, we're dealing with the multiverse. What is this going to change about the MCU? And I feel like my expectations were way too high, and I was expecting kind of this grand story, this big story, and I just was a little disappointed. Now, I will say the second time I watched this movie, I actually enjoyed this a lot more because I went into the movie, one, knowing what kind of movie it was. It's a Doctor Strange movie, a Doctor Strange story, and I didn't have as high expectations because I knew what I was getting, and I will say I enjoyed it so much more the second time. So I think, yeah, if you go into this movie, just enjoying it for what it is and kind of just enjoying not having high expectations, I think this is a good movie, and I did really enjoy it. But first, before we get started into what I liked, what I didn't like, I just want to say why I was disappointed initially. So I think for me, one, I'm a huge X-Men fan, as you can tell. I have been so excited that, Disney now owns X-Men, and I'm ready for the X-Men mutants to be introduced into the MCU. I've been patiently waiting. I remember in Endgame when they kind of snap everyone back into existence. I was really hoping that, okay, maybe them snapping everyone back is gonna somehow introduce mutants in the MCU. That didn't happen then, so I was like, okay, that's okay. Then once all they start talking about this multiverse, I'm like, oh, that's it. Mutants are gonna be introduced somehow with this multiverse. That would be an easy way for them to kind of introduce mutants into the MCU. So that's me watching this movie. I'm thinking I'm going to watch this movie and somehow by the end, mutants are going to be in the MCU. They're going to finally exist. And I just was really disappointed when that didn't happen. I will say, though, we did get, Professor Xavier was in this movie. So we did get to see a mutant, our first X-Men mutant in the MCU. So that was really cool seeing him in this movie. But in general, I'm just really looking forward to mutants being in the MCU going forward and it just being normal again. But I just got to be patient, though. That will definitely happen. It just did not happen in this movie. And I think once I let that expectation go and just enjoy this movie for what it was, I had a good time. So let's get into, I guess, first what I liked about this. Well, I gotta say, Elizabeth Olsen, I loved her. She did such a good job. Her, you really felt her pain as Wanda Maximoff. She really wants to get her kids back. And she really, when people say, like, listen, I'll kill for my kids, she definitely, would kill for her kids. And she was gonna get her kids back no matter what. And I really have to say, I like that this movie went there. So, like, where people are like, I'll kill for my kids, Wanda's like that, but they actually show it. She was killing people left and right, and she was going to get her kids back no matter who stood in her way, and she was willing to kill for them to get them back. And I just like that this movie kind of took that risk. If it's going to, make Wanda a villain, they didn't, just going to half-ass it. They fully made her a villain, and yeah, she definitely, was deadly. And first of all, her powers were really cool. I love seeing her as a villain. and just, all the destruction she did and just how scary she was in some moments. I will say, like, there's a lot of horror elements in this, and me being a huge horror fan, I have to say I really enjoyed that scene where it's like Wanda's chasing Doctor Strange in America down that tunnel and Wanda's kind of limping was pretty cool. I feel like it definitely, if I was a little kid, I would be scared. So I love all like these little horror elements of it, and visually I just feel like this was a really cool movie. You got to see so many cool fight scenes between, Wanda, Doctor Strange. Just their powers are really cool. So just seeing all their fight scenes and how they use their powers in different ways, just visually was really cool to look at. Also, seeing them go through all of these different multiverse, worlds, I thought was awesome. Just kind of seeing the different worlds and how creative you could get. I thought that was really cool. I really like Doctor Strange in this movie. And one thing I will say that I really liked is they kind of, and they talk about this in the movie, but pretty much someone asked Doctor Strange, "Are you happy?" And I love that they kind of address that. And that's a very relatable thing in life. Are you happy? I think most people in the world, if you're like, "Oh, are you happy?" Most people are going to automatically say yes, because the world, I just feel like we put on this front that, yes, we're happy, everything's fine, when in actuality, you're not maybe happy. You're not happy, and I just love that this movie kind of addresses that. And we kind of get to see Doctor Strange, them ask him, "Are you happy?" And then he comes to realize, hey, maybe I'm not actually happy. And I love by the end of this movie, while he kind of realizes he's not happy, he's now on a journey. He's going to try to find what makes him happy, and he's going to go for his happiness. So yes, while he might not find happiness, he is on the path to find happiness. He's headed in the right direction. And I just think that was a really cool that they addressed that. And I can definitely agree with that. And, I'm not always happy. I wouldn't say I'm not happy, but I'm on the direction. I've made a lot of changes in my life to make myself happy. I feel like I'm on the road to happiness, and I feel like that's a big part of life, is just being on the right road, headed in the right direction to your happiness. So yes, I love that the movie, addressed that. Now, another thing that I loved is, I gotta say, when this movie introduced the Illuminati, that was awesome. It was so cool just seeing them introduce all the different members. When they introduced John Krasinski as Reed Richards, that was really cool. I heard he could eventually play, Reed Richards, but to just see him on the screen, I wasn't expecting that. I was generally shocked. I thought that was really cool. But my favorite, though, was when we got to see Professor Xavier, and he came in his hover chair, and the yellow hover chair from the animated 90s series, and then they also had the animated 90s theme song from the show play as he was coming in. I thought that was so cool, and yeah, just them introducing the Illuminati, get to see all these different characters. I love that. And that was a highlight of the movie for me. While I will say, though, this is where I start to get in my cons. That was so short-lived. That was crazy, you guys. We kind of get introduced to all these really cool members. And one thing I will say, with Spider-Man No Way Home, it did such a good job, because when it introduced, Toby and Andrew, their Spider-Mans as Peter Parker, once they were introduced, they became part of the storyline. They were in that last third act. They were part of the fight, and they were part of the movie, and it really elevated the movie because they joined the movie for the last act, and they just made the movie so much better because they actually joined the storyline. Where I feel like with this movie, when they introduced the Illuminati, I had the same feeling when you were so excited that these characters were introduced. And then 10 minutes later, they were all dead. That was absolutely crazy. It just kind of, one, I get, Wanda's a villain. She's going to kill people. I'm not, that's fine. I get that. But just them to be introduced so quickly, it was really not really them in the movie. They were cameos. They were really, truly cameos. They didn't really add to the storyline. It was just kind of quick cameos. And she literally just kills all of them so quickly. I just feel like that could have been done so much better. You could have easily had, some of the Illuminati members maybe go to try to stop Wanda. She could still kill them. But then you could even have a couple of the Illuminati members maybe join Doctor Strange in America and try to get her to safety and try to get her out of there. And they could have maybe been in the movie the whole movie. I think that would have been just a little bit better, but just to introduce all these characters and then have them killed so quickly, I just feel like it really was kind of cheap. And I just feel like had they maybe not killed all of them and had a couple of them join the storyline for the rest of the movie, would have just been so much better. And I will say, I'm not like all these characters, they were really cool. I was happy they were introduced. But I'm not a huge fan of any of them. I could only imagine though, could you imagine being like a Reed Richards fan? Let's say he's like your favorite superhero and then they introduce him, you're on that high, you get to see him, and then 10 minutes later he gets killed. I'd be mad if I was like, that was my number one superhero. So I know, that definitely was crazy. And then also I gotta say, I felt bad for Professor X. At this point, we've seen Professor X die in so many different movies. I just was definitely sad when he got killed again. And I just feel like, even with Professor X, it was such a missed opportunity because, Professor X was in Wanda's mind. And one of my favorite scenes from the animated 90s series is Professor X battling the Shadow King on the astral plane and just seeing all the cool things that, Professor X can do when he is in somebody's mind. He has so many, his powers, he's the number one telepath. And, so he is a really, really tough mutant. He's the toughest telepath. So the fact that he's in this movie and Wanda kills him so easy was such a missed opportunity. To me, you could even still had Wanda kill him, but I wish they would have even let Professor go out with a big fight. I would have loved when he was in, Wanda's mind, and then the real Wanda shows up to try to kill him. I would have loved if we got to see them battle in kind of the dream world, and the movie really got to showcase, Professor X's power and just seeing them battle. They could do so many different creative ways, and it just was such a missed opportunity that we didn't get to see that happen. So that will say that was a bummer, but it is what it is at this point. Another thing that I think could have been better, like I said, I did enjoy this movie. I just felt like it was too fast-paced. Everything was just happened so quick, and I really feel like it kind of hurt the storyline a little bit. Like, even from the first, they introduced America, someone's after her, they're trying to steal her powers. Doctor Strange, he goes to Wanda to try to get her advice. A minute later, she reveals that, she's the demon or the person who's after America, and she wants her powers. Then, 5 minutes later, they're trying to all protect America. You have all the sorcerers gathered. Wanda immediately shows up. A couple minutes later, they're all dead. They're underground. Everything was just so very, very fast-paced. The Illuminati's introduced. A few minutes later, they're all dead. It just was constantly, it was just so fast. I just wish it would have slowed down just a little bit. I just feel like it could have, if you had it slowed down even a little bit, it could have built up to scenes. It just, everything was, revealed and just happened so fast that I just really feel like that kind of hurt the story. And then what is kind of crazy is because it was so fast-paced, America, Chavez, her character, was in the movie the whole time, and I feel like we barely got to know her. We got to know a little bit of her backstory, that her mom's, she was accidentally sent them through a portal. So we got to know a little bit of her backstory, but we really didn't get to know the character at all. And it's just kind of crazy that she was in the full movie and we barely got to know her. And it was just because the movie was so fast-paced. It just didn't stop for a second to kind of, I just really wish it would have kind of slowed down just a little bit. Even just, not even the whole movie, but just maybe some scenes could have been just a little bit more slower. I just think would have made this movie a little bit better. Like I said, though, I did enjoy this movie, but just it was a little bit too fast-paced. Another thing that I kind of thought was funny in this movie was Wanda was so, she was after, America's power, and she was just determined to get her. She was killing people left and right. So, and you would think when she finally caught America, she would just pretty much kill her instantly and steal her powers so quick. That's what I thought. As fast as she was, how desperate she was to try to get to America. I just thought it was funny that when she finally kind of catches America, she has her captive for 20 minutes. And in the meantime, Doctor Strange, he's battling himself. He's taking over his own dead body to try to get to them to try to rescue her. But I just feel like it was funny that, she finally catches her, and then she was so slow to try to steal her powers. I'm like, you've been chasing her like a crazy person this whole time. You finally catch her, and you're so slow to try to steal her powers. It just, that kind of made me laugh because, yeah, like I said, she was killing people and just chasing her literally to try to steal her power. She was so desperate to steal her power that when she finally catches her, she's slow to take her powers and kill her. I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know. Another thing too, I will say, and this is one of my last complaint. It's not really. It's just more. I thought this movie, especially Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange doing that spell, I really thought this movie was more the consequences of him doing that spell. That was what this movie was going to be about, and it really wasn't that in that case at all. The way they I got it from the trailer was, he did the spell in Spider-Man No Way Home, and this was going to be the consequences. Maybe stuff was going to be the stuff with the multiverse was going to be messed up, and I thought stuff was going to be slipping through to, our MCU that we're familiar with. And really, that wasn't the case at all. It had nothing to do with, Spider-Man No Way Home. This all had to come from, it was all had to do with America just kind of being hunted by, Wanda Maximoff or Scarlet Witch. So I thought that was crazy. That's just why I thought, when we were talking the MCU, that him doing the spell, I just thought it was going to be bigger as far as him doing the spell in Spider-Man No Way Home. I really thought it was going to do something to the MCU, and now the MCU, the multiverse is going to start to get introduced, or there's going to be cracks in it, or maybe some characters would slip through, and, that's what I was really thinking, that, Spider-Man No Way Home was going to really open the door for the MCU to kind of get that much bigger, and really, it had nothing to do with Spider-Man No Way Home, and by the end of this movie, I just feel like there was nothing really introduced to change the MCU like I expected. So that was kind of my other thing. I just thought this movie was going to be bigger, and it was going to have more consequence, it was going to change the MCU going forward, and I just felt like the story was a little bit smaller. Overall, though, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I did have a good time, and yeah, it was good, and it was cool just seeing, Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange kind of battle it out, and I'm definitely excited for the MCU going forward, just to kind of see what's next. But what did you guys think? Did you like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? I feel like some people are going to really like this movie a lot. I think other people might have some problems with it, might be a little torn. For me, like I said, I'm a horror fan, so Wanda killing people or those horror elements did not bother me in the slightest. I did like it. I just wished, I don't know, the cameos would have stuck a little longer. So definitely, though, please leave your comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.